So I understand from conversations with you that there are different kinds of user testing, and that really we focus on three types of usability testing at PlusNarrative. What are those types, and when do we use them?
A few different types. The main one that we use is something called moderated usability testing. Remote in our case, thanks to the condition of the world right now. Usually what that would look like would be you sitting in a room with a participant. They're using that app or website on a tablet or a laptop in front of them. You're asking them conversational questions. We use something called the 5-act structure to kind of organize these sessions, but of course we do this now remotely, given, like I said, the conditions of the world. So it's the same deal, except the room is then a online call, and we record the session from there. The other type is unmoderated. I mentioned Maze earlier, and Maze is this prototyping software that allows us to essentially insert Figma or XD screens into a more interactive experience, and it allows us to passively test this by sending out a link to users who then will run through the on-Rails test, and they'll be almost interrupted at certain points with questions and checkpoints to see what their thoughts and opinions and ratings of each experience are. Recently, with one of our UI UX directors, we run through a series of card sorting exercises, which is like this informational association exercise where we actually create a bunch of notes on a screen, imagine it's, sticky notes on a whiteboard kind of thing. And we put those different concepts in front of a user, and we get them to categorize them as per sort of 4 different groups. They get to then name the groups, and that kind of generally helps us more so with maybe existing systems where we might need to assess informational architecture or the grouping of pages and functionality, that kind of thing.
Tell me about that testing that you do that involves heat maps.
Heat mapping. Right, so that can be done passively, it can be done observationally, but mostly that we conduct that at the moment through Maze, that software I mentioned earlier. What it does is it just helps us generate, again, heat maps. So imagine that multicolored rainbow of green and blue being cold and red being hot, where people's attention might lie. In this case, it's usually to do with where the mouse cursor kind of hovers. Usually that can indicate points of confusion. It can indicate points of interest as well. But generally what it helps us understand is where, naturally landing on a page where somebody's attention first lie, where it will lie naturally, where it will sort of their knee-jerk reaction, where they will be.
How do you know what kind of usability test to perform for which projects?
Well, it kind of depends on a number of different factors. One, obviously, being what the request is from our clients, to what the budget is for that testing, what is not left over but sort of assigned to that round of testing. We usually try to encourage a moderated test up front, generally because we find it to produce the most informative, the most rich results. I mean, it's literally human interaction in that space. So you get something out of it that you wouldn't with a passive test. The kind of X factor that doesn't really exist in big data and quantitative testing.